All right, and we're live. I did a little bit of a sound check. Hopefully, the sound will be exactly the same this time around as it was during the sound check. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. This is my very, very first live of 2019. Although, again, odd hour, 4:57 in the morning in São Paulo. We're about 3 hours ahead of New York, which means that in New York City it's about, oh, you do the math. I suck at math. What is that, 1 a.m.? Anyway, uh, I'm here tonight to talk about Star Trek Discovery. The new episode was just released. We had the premiere. Some of you watched it last night. Others watched it today at some point because I think they waited till the next day to do the world premiere on Netflix. I watched it through mysterious means, which I prefer not to bring up at the moment. So let's get to it. I like to keep these to 20 minutes. Hopefully later on we'll actually get some people in the chat boards, like with my other live chats about The Walking Dead. And I will post these hopefully after the show on Thursday nights. I'll be a little bit better if I can get a hand on the episode within the hour, you know, from wherever it is that I get these episodes. Anyway, let's do it. Star Trek Discovery. First off, let's, get the obvious stuff out of the way. The fan base was split with season one, understandably so. Star Trek Discovery definitely took some left turns from your father's or your grandfather's Star Trek, or even my Star Trek. I'm getting to be 40 years old, so uh, I was there in the 90s watching The Next Generation and some of Voyager, and I was a big fan of the original series even before then. I think that's what got me into Star Trek to begin with. But anyway, so yeah, it's split. It's split the fan base. That's obvious. I respect those that don't like it that much, didn't like the first season, as much as I respect those that loved it. I enjoyed it. I thought it got a little bit better towards the second half of the first season, but still had a lot of things to fix in terms of just slowing it down and just letting us really get to know the characters. And here we are. We got season two, though. It was a big success, as much as some people don't want to admit it, but apparently it was enough of a success where they were able to spend a lot of effing money on this second season, at least from the looks of the first episode. My God, it looked as good as some movies. Um, one particular scene with a ride through an asteroid field or some broken asteroids, that was better than some Star Wars scenes that are very similar. So that's good, that apparently it was big enough for them to throw a lot of money at it, and obviously we got a whole lot of other series coming out, Picard and this Section 31 series, maybe the animated series. Trek is back, whether you like it or not, right? And what did I think of the first episode? Because the producers, they seem like they listened a lot to the fans and some of the stuff that they liked. Obviously, you can't change everything. If you have your vision, you got to go with your vision, but you got to respect the fan base. So that they fix some of the things that the original, that some of the haters, or I don't say that disparagingly. It's just okay. You hated it, you're a hater. You loved it, you're a lover. Um, did they fix some of these things, like the pacing, slow it down, get some more Trek philosophy, a little bit more hopeful, a little bit more cheery? I gotta say yes and no. Uh, it's definitely a different show. I mean, you can have skipped the all of season one and jump in at the first episode of season two, And pretty much all you need to know is there was a Klingon war, the Federation won. Like one character in particular says towards the end of the episode, "Oh, we're not all speaking Klingon, so I guess the Klingons won." You can pretty much, okay, that's enough information to jump in to this series from right now, and just know that at the very, very end of season one, the big reveal is that the Enterprise was there, commanded by Captain Pike, not Kirk. And that's where this episode starts off. Commander Pike comes on board, and he has been selected to do so by the Federation because there's these red lights that are coming out, that are appearing out in the middle of space, and they want to find out what these red lights are about. So there you go. That's the first little check. Exploration, right? That's what they wanted, a little bit more out of Discovery. And they got it, but what do I say yes and no? Because cool. They got very Trek techno babble even in a few scenes where they're talking about what are these lights, and are they able to shine through this and that, and who knows? I mean, I bet the people that are actual scientists and break down all the Trek techno babble are saying this is a bunch of bullshit that they're saying. But okay, at least it was cool to see that in the Trek. They actually took their time to sound Trekky, talking about some space anomaly. That's classic Trek, right? Space anomalies. But then why the no? Because apparently there's some spiritual thing involved with this, and something that wants to destroy all of, every creature ever. And I don't know, it got a little pseudo sciency in that respect, pseudo religious, in or maybe even. And Star Trek has touched on pseudo religion and all that stuff with Star Trek Deep Space Nine, so I'm not against it. I mean, I think Star Trek Deep Space Nine is probably the best written of all the Treks. You just got to kind of work through that first season a little bit, and most of the second. I mean, second season is like half and half. They have some good episodes and some great episodes and a lot of filler. Um, but that's another subject. Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Just brought that up because yes, Star Trek has talked about faith and religion and gone head first into the topic. So so that becomes, I guess that's going to be the overarching um, you know plot line for the season, like the Klingon War was for the last season. What I think may be a bit more pleasing is that this didn't end in a cliffhanger. It just ended in, okay, we went to look for, oh, by the way, spoilers. There's going to be spoilers here. So it's 8 minutes and 30 seconds in. Turn this shit off now and come back later, of course, because you love me so much. But I'll give you another look. Look at this: 8:42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Okay, if you're still listening, you must want to get spoiled, or you've already watched the first episode of season 2 called Brother. So they go out to look for this bright red light, and they find nothing. Okay, but there wasn't a cliffhanger like, okay, what's going to happen next? No, it just kind of ended, but you understood that, hey, there's going to be more because of something, a discovery that Michael makes in Spock's room on the Enterprise, that there's more to these stars, and actually Spock has gone out to look for them. I'm jumping ahead. I'm only bringing that up to say that it'll be cool if they kind of follow the Doctor Who formula, uh, which I happen to enjoy, especially the last couple the seasons with Capaldi, um, which were uneven, but I kind of dug how there was this thread that went throughout, and maybe we had 3 or 4 standalone episodes, then back to that thread, and then three or four more standalones and then back to that thread and then to kind of finish it out at the end was cool. So I hope this gives Discovery that breathing room to actually give us, character episodes and maybe a little more, a lighthearted episode. It'd be nice to know a little bit more about the rest of the crew, especially the bridge crew. They seem like really interesting characters, but they're just on the bridge all the time. That's the only time you see them. We did get their names because we got a little roll call scene. So that part, I think, definitely an improvement. Might please some fans, but maybe may not be enough for the some other fans. Okay, but I definitely that was one thing that I caught, that I noticed right away. Another thing I noticed right away was the color scheme. Oh yeah, thank you. It's bright, it's not all dreary. And I get it, the color scheme worked for the first season because they're in the middle of a war, and it is supposed to be dark and dreary, and but just was too dark and dreary, and then kind of glossy at the same time, because that's just how things are filmed nowadays, and space shows to look very glossy and very 21st century, and it looked very cinematic. So some of the stuff was beautiful to see, but reminded me very much of the J.J. Abrams style of filming, which, but even with his, at least it was bright. He still had a brightness to it that Discovery did not have in that first season until, they kind of got it a little better with the lighting towards the second half of the season, but it was still, not my favorite color scheme. I like this color scheme on this one. It felt softer, which is nice. So already it brought the mood down. It made it feel a bit more friendly. Like this is the crew that you want to see every week. Because that's the thing about Star Trek. What makes people love the show so much, or one of the things, is it's this crew, and that's for any television show, right? I mean, you want to, whether it's a cop show or the Sopranos or Breaking Bad, is you want to see these characters every week. You want to see what they're up to, what is their next challenge, whether they're good or bad guy. For me, that was Lorca in the first season. I just loved that character. He was such an asshole. Even before they revealed who he really was, I said, "This guy's too much. There's got to be something going on." I wanted to tune in to find out what's going on with Lorca more than any other character in the first season. This first episode, I don't think there was any standout character that made me feel that way. I did like Pike. No, the original Pike from the pilot episode, The Cage. You know, good performance. I mean, Kirk. Shatner is the man, and I love Kirk. So for me, it's hard to kind of be in the same league with him, as far as you are the original captain of the Enterprise, or well, there's one before. But it was an all right character, Captain Pike. But they fleshed him out a little bit more in this episode. He was a bit funnier, very lighthearted, uh, charismatic, which was cool. Good to see that, after that Lorca experience. It was nice to see a guy that's very moral, very much in command, and could crack a joke or two, willing to put himself out there for his crew, listen to his crew, even wants to remodel the Enterprise a little bit. To put a ready room in there, that'll be great. Oh, the moment we have our first ready room scene in Star Trek Discovery, I'll be like, yes, baby. Um, some things Negatives. Well, I don't want to get into negatives yet because there are a few negatives. Another positive, of course. I mean, the action stuff, they got that down perfectly. They did that perfectly in the first season. That's the stuff that may turn off some Trekkies who are like, hey, Star Trek isn't supposed to be like Star Wars, or in action series. It's about seeing a problem and discussing the various solutions to this problem, which I agree to. Oh, sorry, I agree with to an extent. But the original, series was described a lot. Was it like what do they describe it as? The Western in the Sky. I forgot the show that was big at the time. Gunslinger in the Sky. I forgot now. That there's always this little phrase that they use to describe Trek. Um, and there is very much an action um, aspect to the original series. It's just I don't think they had the budget to really make it that much of an action series. So um, there was a lot more talking and figuring out what it was. Let me look this up here because this will stick in my head, guys, till I get it. I don't know. I don't know. But it was like a western in the sky. Give me a second. Western themed. Um, all right, you're getting a lot of dead air, so I'll just, you know, I'll just skip that for now. Anyway, so yeah, the action scenes were amazing. The scene where they have to get into an asteroid was incredibly filmed. I mean, it was very similar to the scene from Into Darkness, right, where Kirk and Khan kind of had to, jettison themselves from the Enterprise to get onto another ship. Very well done. I'm not a big fan of Star Trek Into Darkness, probably one of my least favorite Star Trek movies, but I can't deny that the action sequences in that movie were very well done. And that's one little scene that's very incredible. Anyway, so that's positive, of course. We talked about the color scheme, the new uniforms. We had some TOS style uniforms updated, of course, but then that was short lived as Captain Pike is going to stay on board the Discovery, so he got the Discovery uniform. Uh, what else did I really like? Um, I, I like a little. The flashbacks were okay. I mean, I don't think they were as they could have been done a little bit better. They just showed Spock being a total jerk um, to Michael for no reason, just because Spock apparently is a jerk, and he sometimes was a jerk, even as an adult, but didn't really get that. So let's talk about some negative stuff. Okay, some negative stuff. What I didn't like, I thought Sarek was, they softened him up a little bit, make him a bit more paternal, a little bit more fatherly, which I don't know. Sarek's never been that way. Even in TOS and throughout, speaking of assholes. I mean, he's an extreme one. He's um, really a rough around the edges. So I didn't really fall in love with him getting softened up a little bit. I liked his portrayal a little bit better in the first season. But, of course, you can't really compete with the original Sarek. and mostly because of um, who it was played by. And man, Mark Leonard. Sorry, guys, it's late. Anyway, yeah, Mark Leonard is just Mark Leonard, right? But Ben Cross, which I believe is the new actor, is doing an okay job. Um, he's doing an okay job with it. Anyway, we're at the 20-minute mark, so I'm going to try to finish this as quickly as possible. Um, the I'm fading, guys. It's 4:57 in the morning. Yeah, I promise I will. Well, I can't promise, but I'll try to do these a little bit earlier. By the way, Star Trek is not going to be every Sunday. It's going to be on Thursday nights. Okay, it's going to be a Thursday night show. That's when it's going to premiere. So all you all that are listening, watch out for it on Thursday nights, probably around 8 o'clock, 8:30. That's when it'll premiere on CBS All Access, and then who knows when the hell it'll be on Netflix. So back to negatives. That was one negative. The other negative is that it still feels like an action series. A little bit too much, okay, in parts, but it also managed to slow the pace down in some parts. So it gives me hope that they are gonna know how to slow down the pace, let these characters talk. It's okay. We're Trek fans. We like talking. Uh, if you're a TOS fan, yes, you definitely like talking because they didn't have money for special effects, so they would spend 2 minutes in a scene talking about what is this out there and how can we defeat it instead of actually doing it. If you're a fan of TNG, then you're definitely a fan of talking, right? That's actually, it was too much talking for me at the start. It took me a while to get into the next generation because I'm like, man, this mother. Well, try not to curse, right? Because kids might be listening. But this fucking captain won't throw a punch, right? If you're coming off of, Captain Kirk. So, a lot of talking, 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 talking. It's cool, producers of Star Trek Discovery. You can have us just sit down and talk. Let us hear these characters talk about, some space anomaly. It's not boring for us. It really isn't. We're a special breed of sci-fi fans. We actually like that stuff. And it felt as if it had a little bit more of that, like going into that direction, but still, when it was time for the action, you could sense that okay, this is where the producers and the writers feel more comfortable. They want that, they love that, and all power to them because they do an awesome job at it. Um, Again, we got to bring out the other characters. I get that it's through Michael's eyes, so most of the story is going to be focused on her and her journey and her discovery of herself. But we need to see what the other characters are about. I mean, we got more backstory with the science officer that came with Pike that wasn't Spock because Spock is out there in space somewhere, looking for answers. Then we got from the bridge crew. A few things that were weird is Tilly. Tilly's an ensign, but she's like totally in control of engineering. Like, what happened there? She was very cute first season. I really enjoyed her. I loved her character, but let's not overdo Tilly, right? With the cuteness factor. She's still a Starfleet officer. She has to have a little bit of seriousness to her, and it's got to make sense. Like, why is she in control of engineering just for the hell of it? Excuse me, guys. And what else? Well, they did meet an engineer at down at this asteroid who was kind of marooned there, and she was awesome. And I'd like to see more of that character. She just kind of disappeared after they transported back on Discovery. I would like to get more on her. I thought they didn't spend enough time on that. And what else that I think was a negative was, hmm, oh, I don't know where they're going with the Spock Michael thing. I mean, are they gonna do a Leia? Well, no, because Leia and Luke, at least they didn't know it. I mean, did it get jiggy with it? Oh man, I don't know how I feel about that. I guess I just have to see how they're gonna play it out. I mean, I guess it would tie into canon as far as okay, this is why Spock never talked about this. Well, foster sister of his. Um, so yeah, that's kind of wacky. Not illegal, not genetically a problem, right? Like if you actually do sleep with your sister, that could have some repercussions genetically. And your kid might come out stupid. So I got no problem with it on that, but it's still kind of weird. Oh man, I don't know how I feel about that. Anyway, um, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. Do we trust Discovery writers enough? I don't know. I'm not sure yet. But overall, I gotta say, if you are a Trek fan that did not really like the first season of Discovery, at least give the first episode a chance, and maybe another two or three. I think with these type shows, if you're not hooked by the third episode, you should just give up, because it's pretty much just gonna be more of the same until the end of the season. Um, but I'd give it a chance. You might like it. For those that really loved or enjoyed season one, I think it's more the same on the level of what you enjoyed. Plus, they added a few more elements to soften it up, make it feel more Trekish. I mean, there was at least two or three times this episode that I was like, oh, wait, I feel like I'm watching, old school Star Trek, which is cool. As much as I love new school Star Trek, I mean, Star Trek is a series that's evolved. Every series is different. Every series tries to do it from a different angle. And television's changed. I know there's a lot of people that are fans of the Orville. I'm not a big fan of Seth Meyers. Is that his name? Seth MacFarlane. Sorry. I'll get to it at some point. Um, apparently they say that's the show that has more of a feel. But the clips I've seen of it, it does feel like Trek, but it also feels like okay, he can get away with having this throwback feel to it because it's slightly comedic. I don't know if you did that type of um, cinematography and acting and sets and actually did it as this is seriously dramatic series who were like the granddaddy of space operas and were in 2019 with a show that looks like it could have been from 2009 or 2008. I don't know, if that would fly. Trek has always been ahead of the curve. It's been the show that other shows have followed in terms of special effects and storytelling and what have you. Trek is the granddaddy. So I like that they're taking risks, that they're putting their foot down and saying, hey, if you want to be a sci fi space exploration show, this is the bar. We've just, you got to pass us with this level of special effects, this level of action, this level of intrigue, and whatever. But what differentiates Trek? It's those moral stories. It's stopping in the middle of all that action and actually telling a story that touches you on a deeper level. And Discovery hasn't done that yet. It's gotten close. I think this first episode has spilled a few more seeds, which might blossom into definite spaces for that to happen. Definitely, especially they got more episodes this season. So we shall see, guys. Look at this. It's 29:53, so I'm going to stop at the 30-minute mark. So I give episode one of season two out of 5 stars. I give it like a good three to maybe three and a half. And just to compare, the first two episodes of season one, I might have maybe a two and a half. Not fair for me. Two is like fair. Three is good. Four very good. Five excellent. Um, so I give it a little bit more of an edge than the first episode of season two. Probably something I'd watch again. This episode, I enjoyed, the first episode of season one, but I don't think it's something that I'd be like, oh man, I really gotta go back and watch that, to remember that special moment when this and this and this happened. No, no, it didn't feel like that. Felt like just like a good setup episode, and then on with the show. So that's that. Hopefully somebody will listen to this at some point. I'll spread it around, and we will try to set up a meeting for next week, Thursday. I'll see you guys then, and live long and prosper, and keep tracking, guys. And be optimistic. Hope the show keeps getting better. I definitely see it on an upward curve, not a downward curve. So hopefully it'll just keep getting better. Much love to all of you. Good night.